Protests are growing in Minneapolis and other major cities after an ICE agent shot and killed a young woman. A warning, the video that you're about to see, if you haven't already seen it, is graphic. You can see an ICE officer approaching a vehicle there, as the vehicle tries to drive away, an officer fires into that vehicle, killing the 37-year-old woman during this operation that was happening in Minneapolis. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and President Trump described the shooting as self-defense, but the mayor and the governor have disputed that. And now you're looking at some live pictures of protests that are happening in the city right now. There have been some clashes between officers and protesters over the last few hours. Some arrests have also been made. Let's get right to CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman, who is live at the protest and joins me now to talk more about this. Matt, you're right in the middle of it. Describe what you're seeing.
Vlad, I will give you just the state of play here. What you're seeing is an array of probably about 100 Border Patrol officers. You can see they have pepper guns. They just fire those pellets with pepper spray in them. They have little bear cans. Just trying to get a look right over my left shoulder here. It looks like there was something that was brewing, but basically there's been this fisticuffs, this pushing and shoving between several hundred protesters who amassed here very early this morning and began just crossing the street, marching towards the federal building, but didn't actually go into it. And then at first, a few, then many dozens of Border Patrol agents and federal officials and officers came out trying to push them back. They deployed chemical agents, eventually some tear gas. They detained a couple of people. It got extremely heated at one point. And one of the things that became so apparent from being out here all morning is how angry people are here in Minneapolis. They are extraordinarily upset. They feel like this has finally come home. They have been warning about this kind of possible violence, and then it happened in essentially the same way that they had predicted. So lots of anger. And one of the things that we saw from these protesters is that these are people who actually came here early so they could then go to work afterwards. They're people with jobs. They're people who are members of the community. And, you know, it is pretty astounding, Vlad, when you see the number of federal agents out here, the force that they're carrying. It's a very impressive show of force. This woman has a placard right here that says, "Say her name, Renee Nicole Good." We've heard a lot of that this morning. So obviously the city very much on tenterhooks, I'm told from protest leaders and organizers that this is just the start of it. We're going to see a lot more of these types of actions in the coming hours and days.
Matt, you're no stranger to having covered protests. You've covered them all over the world, in the Middle East, in Latin America, and in Asia. And I wonder, we interviewed the police chief of Minneapolis earlier this morning on CBS Mornings, and we specifically asked him if the actions that he witnessed on that video where Renee Nicole Good was killed were protocol, in the protocol that he would have applied to his officers in the Minneapolis police force. He said, as you've heard from the mayor, that the very presence of these 2,000 ICE officials in that city has made it as tense as we are seeing behind you right now. How would you describe the posture of these ICE officials, these ICE agents that you're seeing right now on the streets and over the last 24 hours?
Okay, let's take a look at them right now. I mean, they're being very measured. They've taken a step back. At first, they were in a posture that was definitely poised and ready to go. Right now, also because the crowd has thinned out significantly from many hundreds to probably just a few dozen, they're much more relaxed. But one of the things that stands out about that video is what you see and then how it will likely be interpreted by Department of Justice lawyers. And I spoke with a former Department of Justice lawyer, someone who's still involved in legal work with the government, and he said the key issue in that video is likely to be, did that officer at that moment feel that he had a reasonable threat against him? And that's what they're going to have to figure out. So there's going to be a lot of gray area in terms of the DOJ and the FBI investigating this, and then whatever other agencies are involved in the investigation. But whatever it is, so many people saw it. That video has gone viral. There have been so many angles, and people in Minneapolis and across the country are incensed about what they saw. What they say is a woman who was just gunned down essentially in cold blood. So this is just the start of something. The question is there going to be another spark that sets something off, or are these protests and the protesters going to keep things moderately peaceful? Today wasn't as violent as it could possibly have been. They could have been much, much worse. I think both sides are still in some ways testing each other out, Vlad.
Yeah. And finally, Matt, the other thing that the police chief told us is that officers are trained to not put themselves in positions like that one ICE official was. In other words, in front of a moving vehicle. And so I wonder, and there's also a moment where you hear in some of the video that I've seen, Matt, you've no doubt seen it and heard it as well, where a woman is essentially screaming at these ICE officials, and a doctor is trying to get to Renee Nicole Good to try and treat her. ICE officials aren't letting them. Is that part of the anger that you're seeing on the ground when you talk to those protesters, that it's not just the shooting and the killing of this woman, but it's also just what's been happening in the aftermath?
I think it was the cavalier attitude of the federal officers on the ground. I think there was somebody who said, just relax or, calm down. And obviously for protesters who were there, who were filming somebody being shot in the head, and even if she had done something, everybody who is wounded deserves first aid. I mean, that's just, basic human decency, and I think also standard operating procedure for all federal agencies. So I think there's a lot of upset about how that was handled as well. Again, Vlad, we don't know the details. We weren't specifically there. We don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Were they activating medics to try to go to the scene and they just were trying to control the crowd? We don't know a lot of things, and it's very easy at this point to jump to conclusions. But I'm, I guess, relating what people in the community here are telling us, that the source of their anger was absolutely seeing somebody not being tended to when they obviously had extremely serious wounds and when they had medical personnel who could have attended them but were not allowed to do so, Vlad.
Yeah, Matt Gutman reporting on the ground for us. Matt, good to have you at CBS News. Your reporting has been incredible over the course of the years, and you're right in the thick of it again. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.